This is Senate Transportation. It's Tuesday, April 2nd. We're talking about 868 transportation bill. And I just wanted to kind of go through some of the great areas, which are our open areas. We don't have our ledge council, but then Harvey, we can have her come in. And I think I was going to try to have some proposed language on some of these things, but I think it'll be pretty quick to go through. I Rusted Rotor memos on here, and that is just to make sure people have seen it. And
I was impressed with the photographs and the detail, and then bold does not mean you know.
Right, that they send out.
Yeah. So I hope it works.
So that, I just wanted to make, since we had asked for it, we sent it out, I wanted to make sure we got this. So unless there's somebody who has any questions about it or wanted more than DMV did, that's the end of that discussion as far as I'm concerned, for at least for this year. So the first section that we have still open is, which is the red section 2. This is the transfer of the 1.7 out of the central garage fund.
Well, the first is the 1.7 carbon reduction grant that got taken away from public transit.
Right. So
for the Sprinter vans.
Are you page 9 on draft 1.1? So I get that whole construct.
Yeah.
Taking 1.7 out of the.
And Logan gave us a wonderful sheet. I'm trying to find it.
He did give us one.
I have copies.
I have 2 of these. So basically, I got the sense from the committee when we heard from Central Garage that there wasn't support for taking the money from the Central Garage.
Because it wasn't really gonna, and I don't know, maybe Michelle, since we're gonna have to defend it. Yeah, thank you. Maybe you could put something in writing to us that gives us the rationale why moving it to Central Garage for that specific purpose is just not supported, and why it's not feasible relative to what you're already doing.
Yeah, so I think there were 2 problems. One is Central Garage would have to take that money out, and they had a problem of what they could electrify for 1.7 million. Maybe they could have done one little thing if we really asked them. However, there's a question of whether we still want to do a change like this, because I also got the sense from the committee that there's an interest in trying to support Green Mountain Transit, but we can also wait till we hear from Clay tomorrow and see kind of what their plan is. But if the House would figure out this little transfer as to free up money that they wanted to do for electric charging, if we want to find money for public transportation, it would either have to be this construct or some other construct. And I think there was also, at least I supported, I think I heard this from Senator Kitchell, about keeping the money for the electric transit vans, for the small kind of micro transit that we see as more of the future. And I think even GMT is saying one of the reasons they're out having these budget problems is the cost of running the large buses with 2 people. And if we get more of the electric transit vans, that's going to be a way to bring down the costs of public transportation and provide just as much service. So unless anybody wants to say anything about that whole section, I was thinking we will still leave that until we agree. Okay.
And then the question is, they increased the appropriation for town highway aid and structures. So
that's the 2 million though, right? So there's 2 transfers, the 1.7 million that involves Central Garage for electrification.
And then 2 million up on the top.
And the blue ones on that sheet are the 2
out of the
maintenance garage. And that gets moved to town highway structures, town highway aid, electric bikes.
So the 1.7 got pulled from where to do what? That's got pulled to put in more electric charging.
Yeah, basically, if you look at the orange is the 1.7. On the ball.
Thank you, Logan.
The orange is the 1.7. in blue is the 2 million from maintenance. So they took it from these carbon reduction funds that have to be used for electrification. Took it out of there, gave it to the central garage, say, do some electrification at the central garage, take money out of central garage to do electric charging stations, because they couldn't use that money for electric charging stations. They had to do electrified vehicles.
So the money came, sorry, Senator, the money came originally from where?
Because that's what comes from public transit.
Correct, yeah, so Logan Newberry Joint Fiscal, it originally came from the public transit department. And then through a series of maneuvers, we send it to the Environmental Policy and Sustainability, who's going to use that money to electrify the central garage fleet.
And then that freed up the 1.7.
And then we're taking 1.7 from the central garage fleet and telling the agency to give it to ACCD so that they can use it in their EVSE.
So what I would think is we negate that and we say the funding would be from the revenues we're raising from our surcharge for the electrification. So it isn't going to be 1.7 in the first year, but it's certainly going to be an ongoing revenue stream for the plug-in hybrids and the EVs. So
There's other EVSE work being done.
right.
I mean, does it have value, or are we just doing this as a mechanism just to free up money elsewhere? Does it have that, I mean?
But no, what we're actually are coming up with a different funding source for the charging network. They were doing this roundabout movement in order to free up 1.7 that they were given to ACCD that would help with residential charging and multifamily, right? And so what I would say is keep the money for the Sprinter vans in public transit, which is allowable under the carbon reduction grant. Don't do anything with central garage to launder that money. And we would then not use the 1.7, which because of what we've just done, and say with the revenues that we will start generating with the road usage surcharge, would then go toward electrification of the network, the charging network. So we're finding a different funding source for the charging network or helping people charge their cars, which by doing that, then we don't have to do that 1.7, take it out of public transit, a little bit over. And then we still got the 2 million out of maintenance, which is
Let's just stick
which is a
with,
different issue.
yeah, let's stick with the 1.7.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it, because it did confuse me, the 1.7 and the 2 million, so I just want to make sure that I totally understand.
So by not, if we didn't do it, which is I think what we're saying, then there would be 1.7 for charging equipment. We're proposing to get that from the usage fee, the road usage fee.
And it might not quite come to that.
Yeah, it won't come to that first year, but then also we're keeping the 1.7 in public transportation to buy electric vehicles for microtransit or other public transportation.
Which was there to begin with, right?
Yeah, which is
Okay.
what the agency wanted to
Okay,
use the money.
good. Okay, glad to understanding that.
Okay, so I think we're basically saying section 2, we would basically delete, we wouldn't need any of that language.
No.
So section 3 is unless we wanted to do some of it for something else. So the section 3 is taking 2 million out of the highway budget, the maintenance budget, and splitting it between the town highway structures, increasing that dollar amount by $1 million, increasing the town highway aid program by 860,000, and then 140 for e-bikes.
Okay.
And I wanted to keep the town highway aid program because I thought that a good argument that this should have been the formulaic amount.
Well, I think that,
But that's a base reduction, once you do that and
It's a
set
base
that.
increase.
Well, it's a base reduction to maintenance,
Yes.
that's all I'm saying.
Hi. Hi there. I'm sorry. I was looking, oh, you were having a meeting. Goodbye. I couldn't tell. See ya.
But she seemed a little lost.
yes.
She,
We will find out later, I think.
I guess, okay.
So back to that 2 million, I don't have a problem of, I like what you just said as far as $1 million to the town highway aid. But we're gonna, I mean, I think the real discussion in the room, I mean, we're gonna wait for Clayton Clark tomorrow, but I think, I mean, they're gonna be hitting us up for some money someplace at some point in time. And, I'm not in favor of, $140,000 for electric bike, and I don't know if $60,000, and I apologize, I can't remember where you, said where that would be, but, if we're gonna be looking for some money for public transit, I'd like to kind of set on that until we at least hear something, from Mr.
On
Clark.
the 2 million.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll keep that open. And I think that's 4, 5, and 6.
I don't know, I haven't seen the budget, but the other thing that we can look at, which we have done, and that's crosswalk, now that we're getting general fund all screwed up with everything else. Look at some off our contingent fund for, do something one time as a bridge until they can get stabilized and not attempt to squeeze it all out of this funding stream. But that's something we could look at when we're developing the budget. I don't know, the town highway structures, I just am really worried about money out of highway maintenance. If the structures is at a 1 million, but the minute you start moving it up, that becomes your new base.
Well, town highway structure isn't about 400.
No, I know, but still, what your
Expectation.
expectation is to keep it at that level.
Yeah.
I think the e-bikes we kind of had said would not be the top priority. I'm just saying, if you do town highway aid, can you also do town highway do both?
Yeah, and maybe we use it in a town aid program, but not all of the structures, or maybe we move that.
I don't know, I guess we need to hear a bit more. Obviously, if we're not using it for winter maintenance, it doesn't mean that there's surplus money. The testimony was that they would use it for other kinds of infrastructure maintenance, whether it's cutting, paving, paving in the terms of skim coating to whatever. So it's just a matter of what is going to be the impact on the most heavily used, relied on parts of our transportation system. That's really the question, I think.
I hear that, and it wouldn't be my intent. I think I'm looking at this $2 million is that we're actually responding to something that the House did. And lo and behold, once you open that can of worms, and all of a sudden the door opens up and you've got other people that need some money, which happens to be in this thing right here, is the transit, county transit company. So I'm not looking to make it a permanent cut as far as on a baseline transportation maintenance budget, but that seems to be where it got started. And I'm sure that transportation isn't happy about it in any way, shape, or form, which I don't blame them, but it seems to be that they're starting to accept it a little bit. But I'm not looking to do that as every year that's what we're gonna be looking at. It's just, it seems to be it got started down that path this year, and that's where the favorability is.
I'm just worried the extent to which, because there's more need than we can meet, and that is where our priorities are relative to the transportation infrastructure in total, and where the use is the greatest, where our economic impact is the greatest, obviously, in terms of, transport of goods and whatever, and and the utilization. So,
So should we be looking somewhere else for the 2 million? I mean, because, why, again, Senator Kitchen, one of the things that you said, I've heard you say kind of before, is that this is the Senate. And just because, as I just stated, that's where the House has started it, maybe we find someplace else that we wanna
well,
find $2 million.
if you want to go into, I don't remember, how does maintenance look year over year?
Well, last we heard, they were down with a mile. But like they said, that's.
No, but I mean,
Then it
in terms
gets
of,
back to-
I'm talking about the appropriation even though it was, winter maintenance is down, but that's only a
Yeah.
subgroup of expenditures. You know what, have we whacked, how many times have we gone to maintenance? That's the thing I worry about.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We do go to maintenance
What?
fairly regularly, but it is up. The gov rec has it up about $1 million over last year, 107 last year, 108 this year.
So if we.
The house has it down $1 million. If you take 2 from it, it'll be 106 this year versus 107 last year.
And then if you're during the winter, they need it, they just take that from a project, I see. Like,
Yeah,
there isn't,
we would do,
it's not like you don't do the maintenance.
right, we do the winter maintenance and then.
But again, the money has to be accounted for someplace,
Yeah, well, it
so.
means then you haven't got it for a project. I mean, we know that's all fungible in some way or other. So the governor, so if we level funded, that would give us $1 million.
$1 million.
You know, you could level fund it if you wanted to do the town highway aid because of the formula argument. Fund that, and that's all we do.
When you said crosswalk, is that the carryover term you're talking about with monies that aren't spent this year?
No,
What do you mean by
I'm just,
crosswalk?
General fund.
I'm just talking about how we crosswalk what we're doing here with the budget.
I have comments to make, but I don't want to get in front of what Clayton's going to present tomorrow, since I think he's working on it, and I don't want to pretend that I know where their position is, so.
We can talk about it after we hear from them.
But
I'm worried about them. I'm just telling you, I'm not happy about it, but I'm worried about them. I'm worried about, I'm just being honest with you, I'm worried about the comments made from the mayor, the new mayor. I don't see any changes being made as far as I shouldn't be like that, but I'm worried. I'm worried about that system failing. I'm worried about those people that are less vulnerable, not being able to get around, and I'm worried. And I don't want to get ahead of Clayton as well. And I hope that he comes in here and figures out a way that, that they can keep making the mistakes of their past and look forward, but, it's so hard to talk about it, not knowing what he's gonna say, but you know what he's gonna say some. And so,
we also know that people with more limited incomes rely on public
they
transit.
do,
And
and
so I see it as, you know, I would think the new mayor would view it very much as a justice issue,
well, but I'm looking at it,
but I don't know what the position is on it.
so I'm looking at the comments, not so much as out of Senator Kitchell, I'm looking at the comments that, already she seems to have, she couldn't really get out there and support the police chief, which leads me to believe that maybe we're gonna have some of the same policies that they've had in the past that has kept people from riding on the bus too many, but again, that all gets back to what's public transit gonna do? Are they going to start finally charging fares so that we don't have the people just riding the bus as a safe and dry place to be? Or what's gonna happen?
So just a couple of things. So just to be clear though, Green Mountain Transit is not managed just by Burlington. Burlington is just one of their members. Okay, so there's, the new mayor doesn't have direct authority over it. We all know that. I definitely think they need to start charging fares, and you're gonna hear from them that they're queued up to do so. And I also know that they're looking more closely at the Link Express and what they're charging there, which could either generate more revenue or what, and again, I feel like I'm getting in front of Clayton, but I'll say just as me, not speaking for GMT, I feel like they do need to cut service. People aren't taking the bus as much, and I think they're realizing that. And the Sprinter van piece too is a way.
So
for them-
fixed route more and more flexible routes.
Correct. Microtransit might be a solution for off hours, evening hours, and weekends, which could be less expensive than those empty buses driving around town. So I think that's what we're gonna hear tomorrow, that that 2.7 just doesn't seem realistic to me. And so finding another way, path forward, really gonna generate revenues. I agree though, with some of your comments there, but just the mayor doesn't have.
I get it, but it's the biggest city, it's the biggest routes, it's all of that. And at the end of the day, when you're the biggest, you also have the biggest share of the poorest. And I just can't agree that we can't make sure that those getting around to make their appointments, to have a quality of life. And unfortunately, I'm gonna quit beating that bandwagon, but that's what I think about.
Okay, well, we'll hear more about it tomorrow. Rochelle, can I ask you a question on
Absolutely.
on the 1.7 that was in public transit? Was that all for electric vehicles for,
Yeah, we had a line item for $4 million for e-Sprinter vans,
4 million?
4 million, and so this would have reduced it by 1.7.
Okay.
So restoring this would be favorable to us because of some of the things Senator Chin just pointed out. We're seeing operational opportunities across the state for a Sprinter van type model.
Do you know the cost of them? Like how many can you buy for $4 million?
I would have to get back to you on that. I can't recall what the number was. Yeah.
And are those vans coming out pretty readily? I mean, can you order them and get them?
Yes, those are much more accessible than the large electric buses.
And would it be if they apply or would it be part of their whole planning through the RPCs and everything, or just something, I don't know, like the GFT could just make an application like a competitive grant program?
So what happens is we have a very fixed framework for capital management across all the providers that is dictated by FTA formulas. And so we keep sort of, an inventory of where everybody's fleet's at in terms of its condition, mileage, et cetera. And then when they do their annual application for additional funding from the state or their funding if they're rural, that would be one of the elements they include is what they need for capital, what their replacement plan would be. And we would be familiar with what we anticipate is upcoming based on understanding the asset management needs around the entire fleet.
One of the things I'll say is as much as they love it in the base, I think that what I've heard in the side conversations, and again, this is just my impressions that they're really looking for one-time monies to bridge to the place where they start recollecting fares, which should be in the next few.
And then they start reconfiguring their route and their,
Right. Well, hopefully they'll come out and present a plan for that. So like, here's this, we're not just filling a budget hole, because then they just come back next year and say, so we're helping them implement a plan. Okay. Still working with AOT on some language about buildings. So that's to be determined. And then.
so the only thing money-wise is the 2 million, to the extent to which we level fund or how much, or whether we.
Yes. And I do need, I keep forgetting to do this, just on section 24 of the Public Utility Commission language. I want to send it over there to make sure they're okay with the change. Other than that, I think we're done. I don't think there was anything else we talked about adding. So unless we want to do the ATV helmets, but we could also suggest that the House do that in the DNB bill, but I think they're getting pretty close to wrapping that up too. Yes.
I had a friend reach out to me and indicate that we estimated to be about 20 vans plus the charging equipment that would come with the need.
Right with you.
Oh, 20,
20 is good.
That's really.
It's a significant number.
Yeah, that could really change.
Yeah.
Just a friend of yours.
Just a friend of
mine. Yes, I should.
I don't know if the helmet thing is worth considering, but who represents VASA? Should we ask VASA to?
We did ask VASA, Tommy, remember he had testified before from Disneyland?
Yeah, from Florida.
On the helmet thing?
No.
From Vassar, but
I don't think we've confirmed it yet.
They've been invited.
We've been invited.
I think that they're, and I've only seen a little bit of that bill, but that's going to include more helmets and some of the side-by-sides.
No,
they get rid of the helmet.
Okay.
Because right now, all ATV drivers have to have a helmet. So they're saying if I have a 3-part harness and a roll cage, do I need a helmet?
If we could fit that in, I'd be in favor of that, as far as to get them in.
well, we need to hear from DMP because then they'd have to, or, well, with helmets, that would be, well,
They're all off.
VASA has a-
off-road, so it would
I wonder
be.
if VASA, okay.
Yeah, so we'll hear from VASA. I don't know this person.
We need some law enforcement. Who enforces helmet use for ATVs?
I don't know if VASA hires like VASP does.
Actually,
Because
it's,
you have to differentiate between the models of ATVs, because some of them are still just those old, with them.
right, I think I know in the past, I apologize, I missed that email, I don't know how I did, but.
I think it only went to Tom and Kitchell.
But, I know it's been, Yeah, the people, what they've been saying are the people that are exactly as Senator Pershing just said, in the roll cage, in the 3-point harnesses, and all of them. They're basically saying, well, what's the difference between riding one of them like in a Jeep Wrangler or whatever?
And now that they've become so big and whatever, it just seemed like if the House could, if they were interested in it, it'd be good for them to put it in the DMV bill, but I don't know if
I
they've
don't know if
done it.
they're, yeah, I'll talk to Sarah tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be great.
This morning.
I know, but I forgot to talk to her about that.
That would be very nice if they could slip that in there. That would save us a lot of work and then let us get it when it comes over.
And if they don't agree with it, then there's no point in our doing it anyway.
Right.
But if they can't tackle it, it is only April 2nd. If you want to take a little testimony this week, we could just.
Yeah, we asked Tommy to come in from VESA on Thursday. Okay, so if he prefers, we'll do that. We'll put it in. Then hopefully get these other little languages figured out this week, and then we'll have Jen Kirby come in and present a final bill. We don't have to vote on it by Friday, but that's kind of the goal, since it's pieced together by Friday. Okay, anything else? Anything else from the agency?
What frequency do you want carton of eggs to arrive in the committee?
Well, I only live alone.
You only eat so many eggs.
Well, I did go through, I had,
Did you bake a lot?
well, I had 32 for dinner on Sunday, if that counts.
From each and egg.
I did, actually, I did.
This is like a door fry.
I'm not
Okay.
surprised, here's an egg.
We can adjourn